Welcome back to my channel, Famous and Fabulous. Chumlee's life has always been lived in front of millions of people, but behind the fun TV character was someone dealing with a harder struggle. When the cameras weren't around, he had trouble with his health. He kept dieting over and over, gaining the weight back and feeling frustrated and stuck. At one time, the scale showed 350 pounds, which made him decide to make a huge change in his life. And now the newest news about Chumlee is making headlines again. Chumlee's story begins in Henderson, Nevada, where he was born Austin Lee Russell on September 8, 1982. He grew up as one of 3 kids with his brother Sage and sister Tara. His family background mixed Mexican, Scottish, and Native American heritage. The nickname that made him famous came when he was young. When he was just 12 years old, a family friend's father thought young Austin looked like Chumlee the Walrus from the old cartoon Tennessee Tuxedo. The joke stayed with him, and soon, Austin started using it himself. He began calling himself Chumlee, later laughing about the fact that the character he looked like was the silly, not-so-smart sidekick. Long before he became famous on TV, Chumlee had already started working at the world-famous gold and silver pawn shop. His lifelong friendship with Corey Big Hoss Harrison connected him straight to the Harrison family, who started the shop back in 1989. Growing up around Corey and the pawn world, Chumlee naturally started working there in his 20s. Even before cameras began filming, Chumlee had a name for being the wild one in the shop. One story in particular became really well known. A customer had pawned an upright bass for around $700, planning to come back for it later. Unfortunately, Chumlee leaned the rare instrument against a shelf, walked away, and watched it crash to the floor, breaking beyond repair. The cost to replace it was a shocking $20,000. When asked what happened, all Chumlee could say was that he didn't know what he was thinking. That single mistake followed him online, with fans arguing about whether his on-screen behavior was really just an act. By the time the History Channel came looking for a cast to bring the pawn shop to life on screen, Chumlee had already been working there for 5 years. When producers needed a 4th person to join Rick, Corey, and Richard Old Man Harrison, Chumlee saw a chance. Out of about a dozen workers, he was the one who stepped up. He later said that he knew what the show needed. The Harrisons had knowledge and smart business skills, but what would keep viewers watching was humor. Chumlee decided to be the funny guy, the one who could take the jokes and play along with the family's teasing. He used the natural friendship he already had with the Harrisons, acting like the cameras weren't even there. That choice worked out great. He became one of the most well-known faces of Pawn Stars. Under the humor, though, Chumlee carries personal moments that mean more than any deal on the counter. His father, a talented woodworker, died from pancreatic cancer just 2 weeks before Pawn Stars premiered in 2009. The things his dad made are priceless to him, and he has said they are the one thing he would never pawn. Pawn Stars premiered on July 19, 2009, and almost overnight it became a huge TV hit. Viewers weren't just interested in the cool backstories of rare items and weird collectibles. They also loved the big personalities and constant drama behind the counter. And right in the middle of it all, often the punchline, but always the comic relief, was Chumlee. As the years went by, other cast members started to change in front of the cameras. Corey Harrison is the perfect example. Viewers watched him grow from a new, inexperienced worker into a smart, knowledgeable part of the business. He matured, made fewer mistakes, and took on more jobs. Chumlee, however, stayed mostly the same in the eyes of the viewers. He continued to play the part of the clumsy beginner, delivering a funny mistake whenever the show needed one. Over time, that image started to feel repetitive. This is exactly what started a big discussion online. On Reddit, one user, Commodore Blair 89, voiced frustration with Chumlee's messy on-screen behavior. Fans quickly argued back, reminding others that much of Pawn Stars is scripted and his behavior was part of the act. Still, the thread soon filled with bigger complaints about how the show chose to show him. One user, Advar Candy, pointed out that Chumlee often asked for more responsibility, but those requests were usually laughed off. They wished the show highlighted his strengths instead of pushing them aside. Another fan, The Real Tina, added that the show sometimes contradicted itself, making him look clueless in one moment and then showing his surprising knowledge of weird items in the next. As she put it, the inconsistency left him stuck in a strange limbo. Either he was an idiot or he wasn't. That contradiction has followed Chumlee for years. While his reputation is built around being the lovable fool, there have been countless moments where his real knowledge comes through. Unfortunately, the show rarely lets him move beyond the goofy character that made him famous. Outside of the cameras, though, Chumlee has proven himself more capable than many give him credit for. In fact, he once admitted in an interview that he had been tricked plenty of times early in his career. He remembered working late night shifts at the pawn shop where shady Rolex deals tested his judgment. At first, he was quick to trust, buying several fakes before realizing he needed to either wake Corey or Rick for permission in the middle of the night or simply pass on the deal. It was an expensive lesson, but he described it as his real education in pawnbroking. Meanwhile, Corey had a head start, having grown up in the business, which saved him from making the same mistakes. Chumlee's honesty in admitting these early mistakes makes him relatable. And moments like these remind fans that he's more than just comic relief. Even Rick Harrison, the shop's experienced leader, isn't perfect. In one episode, Rick ignored Chumlee's warning about a set of Norman Rockwell dolls and spent $300 on them, only to learn they were worth about $250. For once, the tables had turned. Instead of being the one caught in a mistake, Chumlee got to enjoy the rare moment of being right while his boss took the loss. He later admitted it felt good, not because of the money, but because it proved that even Rick wasn't perfect. In a business built on deals and risks, mistakes are bound to happen. But this time, the spotlight was on someone else. For Chumlee, it was a chance to drop the comic relief label and show he could hold his own. Yet, away from the shop's cameras, his life was about to take a dramatic and dangerous turn. Known for being the unpredictable character of the show, Chumlee suddenly found himself caught up in a headline-making incident that happened right in the heart of Hollywood. The chaos happened on Hollywood Boulevard one weekend, where Chumlee was spotted with friends standing beside his Rolls-Royce. Out of nowhere, a man walked up to the group demanding a ride in the car. When they said no, things got worse quickly. According to Chumlee, the stranger became aggressive, bothering the group and even threatening to pull a gun. That threat was all it took to start a violent fight. When the man reached for his pocket, one of Chumlee's friends hit first, landing a powerful punch that dropped him instantly to the ground. With the man left dazed and bleeding heavily from the face, Chumlee and his crew jumped back into the Rolls-Royce and drove off fast. The video of the incident spread quickly, showing the bloody aftermath as the victim tried to pull himself together on the ground. Chumlee said that it was pure self-defense, insisting that the stranger had started the entire situation. What happened to the man afterward, however, was never made clear, leaving a shadow of uncertainty over the whole thing. If that wasn't strange enough, Chumlee's name would be pulled into the headlines again, this time for something completely different: death hoaxes. While celebrity death rumors float around the internet all the time, for some reason, stories about Chumlee's supposed death always seem to catch fire. The first major rumor appeared in 2013 when a questionable site claimed he had died from a marijuana overdose. Not only was the story made up, but the cause itself was scientifically impossible. Less than a year later, another false report appeared, this time claiming that Chumlee had died from a heart attack. The irony was almost laughable considering he was actively focused on dieting and working out at the time, losing weight and improving his health. Rather than dwell on the nonsense, Chumlee brushed it all off in his own style, showing everyone that despite the gossip and the drama, he was still standing and moving forward. But as unbelievable as those stories sounded, they were nothing compared to what would happen next. In March 2016, things took a dramatic turn for Chumlee when Las Vegas police showed up at his home. The raid was triggered by a sexual assault complaint, but once officers got inside, they found far more than they expected. Reports described the scene almost like something out of a celebrity scandal playbook. Inside his home was a space known as the Chum Chum Room, complete with a stripper pole. But it wasn't just for show. Police found a baggie with white residue and a rolled-up dollar bill with traces of powder. The details stopped short of an official explanation, but the discoveries left plenty of room for guessing. The deeper police looked, the more troubling things became. What was supposed to be a single firearm quickly turned into a dozen, with several of them loaded, and only a few properly registered. Alongside the weapons, officers found drugs and paraphernalia in amounts that looked less like casual use and more like what you'd expect from someone packaging and selling substances. During the search, investigators came across two areas of interest: a small safe in the master bedroom and a much larger vault downstairs. Chumlee's assistant opened the smaller safe without hesitation, but when it came to the vault, Chumlee resisted. He insisted it contained private belongings and tried to avoid giving the combination. Police reminded him that the search warrant gave them full authority, so he eventually admitted that it held marijuana and guns. He confessed to smoking heavily and claimed the stash inside was strictly for personal use. Trying to show cooperation, he opened the vault himself. Inside, police confirmed what he had said: firearms and paraphernalia. But this admission raised another problem. Under Nevada law, anyone identified as an unlawful drug user is not allowed to own or possess firearms. Since Chumlee admitted to being a heavy smoker, detectives secured what's known as a piggyback warrant to take his guns. The report went even further. Methamphetamine was found in his bedroom, along with marijuana and large amounts of paraphernalia. To the police, it painted the picture of someone involved in more than just personal use. Digital scales, baggies, and various controlled substances pointed toward possible distribution. Investigators also tied everything directly back to him, as both the bedroom and vault contained personal belongings clearly showing ownership. The arrest that followed was serious. Chumlee was taken to the Clark County Detention Center and faced a huge list of charges: possession of methamphetamine, possession of marijuana over 1 ounce, 17 counts tied to different controlled substances, and a weapons charge for being a prohibited person in possession of a firearm. The weight of the evidence only made things more serious. Detectives worked closely with the district attorney to push the case forward, even securing a warrant for Chumlee's blood to see if he'd been under the influence when he was arrested. In the end, police announced he was facing 19 drug charges and 1 weapons charge. Still, Chumlee didn't stay locked up for long. He posted a steep $62,000 bail and walked out. Though his freedom was far from guaranteed, his lawyer, David Chesnoff, told the press they were ready to fight the charges, stressing that they expected a truthful conclusion once the case unfolded in court. The next key date on the calendar was May 23, 2016. That's when Russell was expected back in court, a moment many believed would give a clearer picture of how much prison time he might actually face. Legal experts weighing in through outlets like Hollywood Life guessed that with 20 different charges stacked against him, the maximum sentence could reach up to 80 years. While that number sounded extreme, it showed just how serious the situation really was. But behind the charges, the bigger cloud hanging over Russell's head was the sexual assault complaint that triggered the raid on his home in the first place. The woman who filed it remained unidentified. And while Russell had not been charged with anything tied to that complaint, police made it clear the investigation was still active. According to the official police report cited by USA Today, investigators took multiple items from his home, including clothing, bedding, and even a DNA sample. Chesnoff added that his client was prepared to fight any future sexual assault charges if they came up. If those charges ever became official, Russell's legal troubles could grow dramatically. Meanwhile, the History Channel stayed quiet. The network made no public comment about whether Russell would continue appearing on Pawn Stars. Sources close to the network told People magazine they were simply waiting for the justice system to run its course. And since production wasn't actively filming new episodes, the show already had plenty of material saved up. There was no urgent need to make a decision. That didn't mean a decision wouldn't come. If Russell were convicted, cutting ties would be the obvious path forward. Networks have walked this road before, and scandals of this size tend to force their hand. Even without a conviction, the arrest alone, 20 charges on paper, gave history plenty of reason to distance itself from one of its biggest stars. And if sexual assault charges were ever filed, it was almost guaranteed the network would release a statement and end the relationship entirely. This put history in a tough position. Pawn Stars had been a huge success since its 2009 debut, bringing in consistently high ratings and becoming one of the network's signature programs. Russell, with his comedic personality, had been a key part of that formula. Now, the scandal surrounding him threatened to put the entire show at risk. If the charges stuck, history could choose a simple fix: phase Russell out, explain his absence briefly to viewers, and carry on with the remaining cast, or even bring in fresh faces. That solution might work for the drug charges, but the sexual assault allegations carried a different weight altogether. Other networks had faced that reality, and the results had been devastating. TLC, for example, suddenly cancelled Here Comes Honey Boo Boo after disturbing revelations about Mama June's relationship with a convicted offender. The same network also cut 19 Kids and Counting after Josh Duggar's abuse scandal came to light. History had seen this play out before. The cautious move would have been to stay quiet, let things unfold, and wait for the courts to decide. But instead of risking a full trial, Chumlee took a different path. A plea deal that completely shifted the direction of his case. Under the agreement, he admitted to a felony weapons charge, unlawful possession of a firearm, along with a gross misdemeanor for attempted drug possession. The deal kept him out of prison, but it came with conditions. 3 years of probation and mandatory counseling, the deal came with a clear warning. If he violated the terms of probation, he faced 2 to 5 years behind bars. On the flip side, if he managed to stay out of trouble through 2019, the felony would be wiped away, leaving only the misdemeanor conviction on his record. It was a second chance, but one that required discipline. His attorney, David Chesnoff, publicly expressed relief at the resolution, saying it was the product of careful consideration by both sides. Importantly, the sexual assault complaint, the very issue that had originally triggered the police raid, did not result in any charges. Authorities confirmed that Chumlee had been cleared on that front. The details of the counseling requirement weren't fully outlined, though records linked the agreement to a local social worker whose specialties included treating sex offenders. Beyond that, the court demanded that Chumlee surrender all of his drugs and weapons. This was no small stash. Officers had taken nearly 5 ounces of marijuana, much of it in jars and plastic bags, including a single Ziploc that alone held over 4 ounces. They also reported finding Xanax and methamphetamine. As for the firearms, the collection was extensive, ranging from standard handguns to a shotgun and high-powered rifles, including an MP5 and a .223 caliber rifle, some of which were not registered. Chesnoff said that none of the weapons were kept for criminal purposes and acknowledged that Chumlee understood marijuana use was still illegal under state law except under certain conditions. Despite the headlines, Chumlee managed to hold on to his spot on Pawn Stars. Even while the network's decision was uncertain, his co-workers stood by him. Rick Harrison, both his boss and co-star, told reporters the shop was supporting him. Corey Harrison took a quieter approach, posting mysterious but pointed messages on Instagram about loyalty, truth, and Nevada's flexible gun registration laws. For Chumlee, the deal came with a clear message: stay out of trouble, and the most damaging charges would be wiped away. The sexual assault allegations that first triggered the investigation had already been dropped, leaving him facing probation, counseling, and what many saw as a lucky break from prison time. But instead of fading from the spotlight in shame, Chumlee surprised everyone once more. Only this time, it was for all the right reasons. In 2022, Chumlee from Pawn Stars shared something that shocked fans: his incredible weight loss. Austin Lee Russell, better known by his nickname,